6:12 a.m. A traffic camera on Old National Highway captures a silver Buick sedan rolling through a quiet Atlanta intersection. Behind the wheel is not 72-year-old Deacon Harold Bennett. 20 minutes earlier, he left home for church, pressed suit, Bible in hand. Just like every Sunday for the past 30 years, he never missed a service. But that morning, someone else was driving his car, and by 8:03 a.m., the church choir was still waiting for him to walk through those doors. He never did. On Pine Hollow Drive in southwest Atlanta, Sunday mornings always looked the same. Porch lights flicking off one by one, a few driveways warming up, and at exactly 5:58 a.m., Harold Bennett stepping out of his front door in a pressed gray suit. He was 72, a retired transit mechanic, widower, grandfather of 4, and for more than 30 years, he had never missed a single Sunday at Light Missionary Baptist Church. People didn't check the time by their watches, they checked it by Harold. At 6:03 a.m., a neighbor's doorbell camera caught him locking his front door, sliding his Bible under his arm, then adjusting his tie in the reflection of his car window. Nothing rushed, nothing unusual. At 6:05 a.m., his silver Buick eased out of the driveway and turned toward Old National Highway. Church service began at 7:30. He liked being early, said it gave him time to settle his mind. By 7:42 a.m., the choir had already started the second hymn. Harold's usual seat, third row from the front, aisle side, sat empty. No one panicked. Not at first. Maybe traffic, maybe car trouble. But at 8:11 a.m., his daughter Renee stepped outside the sanctuary and called his phone. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. That's when the routine broke, because in 72 years of steady habits, Harold Bennett had never failed to show up without calling first, and this time he wasn't answering at all. By 8:19 a.m., Renee Bennett was no longer sitting through the service. She stood near the side exit of Light Missionary Baptist, phone pressed to her ear, listening to her father's voicemail greeting play for the third time. "Hey now, you've reached Harold. Leave it after the tone. Normal, calm, recorded months ago." She tried again, straight to voicemail. Inside, the choir carried on. A few members had started whispering. Everyone noticed the empty third-row aisle seat, Harold's seat. At 8:27 a.m., Renee walked back inside and leaned toward Pastor Lewis. She didn't cause a scene, just a quiet sense. He's not answering. The pastor's expression shifted. Not panic, not yet, but something tighter. Harold wasn't just a member. He opened the building most Sundays, checked the thermostat, turned on the hallway lights. By 8:41 a.m., service wrapped early. 3 men from the church stepped outside to call his phone again. One tried texting. Another drove slowly through nearby streets, just in case the Buick had stalled somewhere close. At 9:06 a.m., Renee called Atlanta police non-emergency. She felt almost embarrassed doing it. "He's 72, she told the dispatcher. "He left for church like always. He just didn't get here." There was a pause on the line. "Ma'am, how long has he been missing?" Renee looked at the church doors. Sun fully up now. Parking lot bright and ordinary. "Since 6 this morning." What she didn't say was the part that unsettled her most. Her father never let his phone die, and if something delayed him, he always called. Always. By 9:32 a.m., an officer was on the way to Pine Hollow Drive, but Harold Bennett wasn't there. His driveway was empty, and his house was still locked from the outside. At 10:14 a.m., Officer Daniel Ruiz stepped onto Pine Hollow Drive. Renee was already there, standing in the front yard, arms folded tight across her chest like she was holding herself together. The morning had turned bright, almost cheerful. It didn't match the way her stomach felt. Ruiz checked the front door first. No damage, no forced entry. Mail still tucked neatly in the slot. Inside, the house looked the way Harold always kept it. Clean, measured, predictable. His bed was made. His reading glasses sat on the kitchen table. A single coffee mug rested in the sink. Nothing overturned, nothing missing. Did he mention meeting anyone? Ruiz asked gently. Renee shook her head. My dad doesn't meet people on Sundays. He goes to church. Her voice didn't crack, but it thinned. At 10:39 a.m., police requested access to nearby doorbell cameras. Within the hour, a neighbor's Ring footage confirmed what they already knew. 5:58 a.m., Harold stepping outside, locking his door, adjusting his tie. 6:05 a.m., the Buick pulling away. He looked calm, unhurried, normal. That word kept coming up, normal. By early afternoon, officers traced his likely route toward Old National Highway. Traffic Division began reviewing city cameras along the corridor. At 3:16 p.m., a technician flagged a hit, a silver Buick Lucerne passing through an intersection camera. Timestamp, 6:12 a.m. The vehicle was clear. The driver was not. The image froze on the screen in the precinct. Renee leaned closer. Her breath slowed because the man behind the wheel wasn't her father. The image from the 6:12 a.m. traffic camera wasn't blurry. That's what made it worse. At 3:24 p.m., Detective Marcus Hale stood over the technician's shoulder as the still frame sharpened on the screen. The silver Buick was unmistakable. Same dent near the rear bumper, same church parking decal on the windshield. But the man behind the wheel wasn't 72. He looked younger, broader shoulders, sitting higher in the seat. Renee pressed her palm against the edge of the desk. Zoom in, she whispered. They did. The driver's face caught half a second of morning light, enough to see he wasn't wearing Harold's glasses, enough to see a trimmed beard Harold never had. The timestamp blinked at the bottom right corner, 6:12:08 a.m. Could someone else have borrowed the car? Hale asked carefully. Renee shook her head immediately. My father doesn't lend his car. He barely lets me drive it. There was no sign of Harold in the passenger seat, no second silhouette, just one man, alone, heading north, away from the church. At 4:02 p.m., detectives pulled additional cameras along the route. The Buick appeared twice more within 6 minutes, maintaining speed. No erratic turns, calculated, direct. At 4:37 p.m., the vehicle vanished from traffic grid coverage near a stretch of older industrial warehouses. No further hits. Hale leaned back slowly. So, whoever's driving knew the area. Renee stared at the frozen frame again. That wasn't a random car theft. That was someone sitting comfortably behind her father's wheel less than 10 minutes after he left home. And if Harold wasn't driving at 6:12 a.m., then something had already happened before that camera ever caught the car. By 6:10 p.m., detectives were standing near the warehouse district of Fulton Industrial Boulevard. It wasn't abandoned, just forgotten. Old brick buildings, faded company signs, long stretches without traffic lights, the kind of area people passed through, not to. At 6:42 p.m., a patrol unit found the Buick parked crooked behind a chain-link fence near a loading dock. Doors unlocked, engine cold. Renee arrived 20 minutes later. She didn't run toward the car. She walked, slow, careful, like approaching something fragile. The interior looked untouched at first glance. Harold's Bible sat on the passenger seat. That stopped her. He never set it there. He always kept it tucked under his arm until he reached church. Detective Hale slipped on gloves and leaned inside. No visible blood, no broken glass, no sign of a struggle. But the driver's seat was pushed back farther than Harold would have needed. Harold was 5'8". Whoever drove that car at 6:12 a.m. had longer legs. At 7:18 p.m., crime scene technicians dusted for prints. Several partials were lifted from the steering wheel and door handle, but none matched Harold's file. The bigger question hung heavier. Where was he taken? At 7:59 p.m., officers canvassed the surrounding buildings. One warehouse manager reported hearing a vehicle idle briefly around sunrise, maybe 6:20 or so, but didn't see anyone. No witnesses. No cameras inside the lot. No sign of Harold anywhere nearby. As the sun dropped behind the warehouses, Renee stood beside the Buick, staring at the empty driver's seat. Her father left home at 6:05 a.m. By 6:12, someone else was in control, and between those 7 minutes, Harold Bennett disappeared. By Monday morning, the case shifted. This wasn't a missing elderly man who wandered off. This was a vehicle transfer in under 7 minutes. Detective Hale requested Harold's phone records at 9:14 a.m. The carrier confirmed the device was active until 6:09 a.m., 3 minutes before the traffic cam captured the Buick. Last signal pinged near a cell tower less than half a mile from his house. After that, the phone went dark. Not dead battery dark, powered off. Renee sat across from Hale, hands wrapped around a paper cup she hadn't touched. "My dad doesn't turn his phone off," she said quietly. "He keeps it charged, even at night." At 11:32 a.m., tech analysts reviewed license plate readers along Old National Highway again. One frame, 6:10 a.m., showed the Buick briefly slowing near a side street called Fairburn Crossing. It wasn't on Harold's route to church. It was a detour. Hale circled the location on a map, 2 blocks from where the final phone ping registered. "So, he either stopped," Hale muttered, "or someone made him stop." At 1:47 p.m., officers canvassed Fairburn Crossing. One homeowner remembered seeing a car pulled over that morning. "Thought it was car trouble," the man said. "Saw someone standing by the driver's side." "Older gentleman?" Hale asked. The man hesitated. "Couldn't tell, but the guy standing didn't look old." That detail sat heavy. If Harold stepped out of his car willingly, it meant he recognized the person. If he didn't, then those 7 minutes weren't random at all. They were planned. And whoever planned it knew exactly where Harold would be and when. By Tuesday afternoon, detectives stopped looking at strangers. They started looking at patterns. At 2:08 p.m., analysts mapped Harold Bennett's weekly routine: grocery runs, pharmacy stops, church meetings, barbershop visits. For 30 years, his Sundays followed the same path. Same departure time, same route, predictable. At 4:32 p.m., Hale requested security footage from a gas station on Fairburn Crossing, 2 blocks from where the Buick slowed at 6:10 a.m. The camera didn't catch the stop itself, but it did capture something else. At 5:54 a.m., 11 minutes before Harold left home, a dark blue Ford Fusion pulled into the gas station lot. It didn't refuel, didn't park near the entrance, it just sat there, engine running. At 6:07 a.m., the Fusion exited the lot and turned toward Pine Hollow Drive. Hale replayed it twice. The timing was too clean. At 4:11 p.m., DMV records traced the Fusion's plate to a 34-year-old man named Calvin Rhodes. No violent felonies, prior charges for fraud and identity theft, lived less than 4 miles from Harold. When officers knocked on Rhodes's apartment door at 6:36 p.m., he answered, calm, cooperative, slightly annoyed. He claimed he'd been home Sunday morning, but at 7:02 p.m., when shown the gas station still frame, something shifted in his posture, just a flicker. "Borrowed my cousin's car that day. Don't remember where I went." Hale didn't raise his voice. "Funny thing," he replied evenly. "That car was parked near Pine Hollow before Mr. Bennett left home." Silence stretched between them, because if Calvin Rhodes was waiting that morning, then Harold Bennett wasn't chosen at random. He was expected. At 8:14 p.m., Calvin Rhodes agreed to come downtown voluntarily. He wasn't handcuffed, he wasn't under arrest, but he wasn't relaxed either. Detective Hale placed 3 photographs on the metal table: the gas station still, the 6:12 a.m. traffic cam frame, and a zoomed image of the Buick's driver. "Help me understand something," Hale said calmly. "You leave a gas station at 6:07. Mr. Bennett leaves his house at 6:05. 2 minutes later, your vehicle is seen heading toward his street." Calvin leaned back. crossed his arms. Coincidence. Hale didn't react. He slid the third photo forward, the one from 6:12 a.m. You're about the same build. Broad shoulders, similar beard line. Calvin's jaw tightened, just slightly. I told you, I was out driving. It's sunrise. On a Sunday, no answer. At 8:42 p.m., Hale changed direction. Did you know Harold Bennett? Calvin hesitated, half a second too long. My aunt goes to that church. Seen him around. That was new information. At 9:03 p.m., church membership records confirmed it. Calvin's aunt had attended New Light Missionary for years, meaning Calvin knew the routine, knew the timing, knew Harold left at the same minute every Sunday. When confronted with that, Calvin didn't deny it, but he didn't explain it either. At 9:27 p.m., Hale ended the interview. Not because he was satisfied, because he wanted Calvin to think he was. As Calvin walked out, surveillance caught him glancing down the hallway, not confused, calculating. And that night, detectives learned something else. Calvin Rhodes had been searching online the week before. Search terms included how to disable a smartphone fast and carjacking elderly charges in Georgia. This wasn't coincidence anymore. It was preparation. By Wednesday morning, Atlanta police were fully focused on the timeline. Harold Bennett had left home at 6:05 a.m. Sunday. By 6:12, someone else was driving his car. By 6:20, the Buick was slowing near Fairburn Crossing, and after that, it vanished from all traffic cameras. No plate readings, no eyewitnesses, no trail. Renee Bennett stood outside the precinct, gripping her coat tighter than the chill warranted. Her father wasn't just missing, he was gone without a trace. In every familiar street, every corner he walked for decades, suddenly felt foreign. Detectives combed through cell tower pings again. Harold's phone had gone dead minutes before the traffic cam caught the Buick. No signals afterward, not near any known locations. It was as if he had ceased to exist. At 10:38 a.m., a forensic tech noticed something. Calvin Rhodes' browsing history contained more than general searches, specific locations, directions to isolated industrial lots, a week of routine church traffic mapped down to the minute. Renee listened as Detective Hale spoke quietly. We're looking at someone who studied him, planned it, knew his habits better than anyone thought. Her stomach sank. She thought of her father's gentle smile, his measured steps on the driveway, the way he carried his Bible with reverence. Now every memory was tainted with unease. The calm morning she'd left for church, the one she thought was ordinary, had been a trap. By 2:11 p.m., officers were back at the industrial district, retracing the route the Buick likely took. Empty streets, faded warehouse doors, the echo of Harold's absence, heavier than any noise. And then a call came in from traffic control. Another camera, 2 miles east, caught a vehicle moving at 6:45 a.m. Same Buick, same dent, but the driver? Still not Harold. Renee put her hand over her mouth. She hadn't realized it yet, but each new image made the possibility clear. Her father hadn't wandered off. Someone had taken him deliberately. By Thursday evening, the search had stretched across Atlanta. Every camera, every street, every alley. Harold Bennett was gone. Renee sat in the precinct lobby, hands trembling, phone clutched like a lifeline. She couldn't stop thinking about the last image she had of him, stepping into his Buick, calm, unaware. Detective Hale reviewed the traffic footage again. 6:12 a.m. Frame frozen. Harold's car. Another man driving. Same dent, same color. Who? Renee whispered. Nobody knew. By 5:47 p.m., officers had canvassed every warehouse along Fairburn Crossing. Empty, silent, nothing. Yet something lingered. A faint trail, cell tower pings, a GPS record of Harold's last known location, tiny fragments, pieces of a puzzle someone didn't want solved. Renee thought about her father's life, routine, predictable, devoted, and how that same predictability had been used against him. It's 7:03 p.m. The traffic cam footage from 2 miles east was enhanced. A shadow moved near the Buick. Just a second, barely noticeable, but it was enough. Enough to know Harold hadn't left on his own. The city had swallowed him, and whoever orchestrated this was still out there. Renee clenched her fists. Tears rolled silently. She whispered to herself, "I will find you, Dad." The Buick sat somewhere, empty, waiting, and the story was far from over.